Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in Cardinal Court, as opposed to the Mack Arena playing floor here on Saturday following Purdue's Open Fan Day basketball scrimmages. I'm back here because the court outside is being prepared for a Purdue volleyball match tonight against Indiana. I'm not sure who the priority here should be, but I know my place, so I have seeked shelter, a quiet alcove here in Cardinal Court to do what I guess is our first rap video of the Purdue basketball season, if you don't count that abomination I did in Chicago in like a hallway. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support as always. We appreciate it very much. So Purdue had its fan day scrimmages today, open to the public, 3 12-minute sessions, 36 minutes in total for you math majors. Obviously a very new look Purdue basketball team coming off a great season last year, the greatest season probably in Purdue basketball history, as all the stuff on the walls behind me can probably attest. Purdue wins the Big Ten again. Purdue goes to the Final Four. Purdue becomes the first school in college basketball history to play in not one but 2 national championship games. That was just a little Easter egg for my friends from Arkansas, just to see if they're still rage watching these things. But things are very different now. No more Ross-Ade. Some other important contributors, Lance Jones, Mason Gillis, Ethan Morton, also have moved on. That's college basketball, right? That's the circle of life in college basketball, the circle of competitive life, if you will. So this will be a very different Purdue team, led by Braden Smith, Fletcher Loyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn. That's a very good core to build around here. And I think all three are sort of as known as can be in a Big Ten, especially in a college basketball landscape, especially where no one knows who's playing for their team every year. So I think when you look at Purdue being a preseason ranked team, even without Ross-Ade, when you see them being the preseason pick in the Big Ten, I think those things are obviously justified. But I also think that's a reflection of the fact that this team is more of a known commodity or quantity, one or the other, whichever one you prefer, than just about anybody maybe not anybody in college basketball, but a lot of teams in college basketball. But that doesn't mean those players will be the same. And that's what I'm using to transition into a takeaway from today, the fan day scrimmages. Trey Kaufman-Renn, I think there can't possibly be very many college basketball players out there better positioned to have a breakout season, like an oh my God, who is this guy sort of season, than Trey Kaufman-Renn is. Part of that is the fact that, as I've said before, he now slides into one of the best jobs in college basketball, being Purdue's low post go-to scorer. It is like being Steve Spurrier's quarterback in the 90s. You're going to get numbers, you're going to get notoriety, and you're going to be a star. I think that's part of it, but I also think this one's different. This isn't Ross-Ade, Isaac Haas. Caleb Swanigan's a bad example because he could shoot threes. This isn't typical Purdue only recruits giants and then puts them at the rim. They're only good because they're tall BS. This is a guy who is going to be able to score from all over the floor. He's going to score in the low post. He's going to score in the high post. He's going to face up and drive. He's going to shoot some threes and make his share of threes. You saw him today, if you were here, make a really, really nifty, might be the right word, kind of driving spin and got to the basket from like 15 feet out. He went from 15 feet to like 2 feet, like that. He's just got a really, really overfilled bag of tricks offensively. He's got a lot of stuff he can go to. But he has really, really passed the ball really well this preseason by every account. I've had 2 different coaches tell me that his assist numbers and their competitive work, competitive drills, scrimmages, competitive practice sessions have been right up there with like Braden Smith, who led the Big Ten in assists last year, set a Purdue record for assists last year, is an assist-oriented type of player. That is a great sign for Purdue because the burden, if you want to call it burden, I'd probably call it more opportunity. It's a very fine line between the two concepts, burden and opportunity. Part of the responsibility that comes with that, being Steve Spurrier's quarterback in the 90s, is decision making. You threw an interception for Spurrier back in the day, you were out. Likewise, when you're Zach Edey, when you're Caleb Swanigan, when you're Isaac Haas, when you're A.J. Hammonds, when you're Carl Landry, when you're Juwan Johnson, when you're whoever, and you're getting a high volume of post touches, you're the guy who has to make decisions based on what the defense does. Your point guard is always going to be, or most of the time, going to be your key decision maker. But at Purdue, the center has really been kind of the trigger man in all of that, because he's got to read what the defense is doing to stop him. I shouldn't say center, low post scorer, because that can be the 4 or the 5. And then he has to play accordingly. So his passing, his decision-making, his recognition are really, really going to be important elements for Purdue this season in terms of thriving offensively, as they should, because they can be a really good offensive basketball team again, but also keeping their turnovers to a minimum. Kaufman-Renn's obviously got to take care of the basketball too. That's a big part of the job he's now taking on here. But he looked great today, as he always does. The numbers don't jump off the page at you. Only 12 points over 36 minutes. Only 12 points. But, I think everybody knows what you're going to get at him to this point. But I don't know if they know the extent to which what you're going to get from him. I'm working on 3 hours of sleep here, so if I start just making no sense whatsoever, feel free to call me out on YouTube or Twitter or whatever. The other thing from today, and obviously Braden Smith's going to get that Jaden Ivey, Zach Edey treatment here this year, where I don't have to remind you every game that he's really good, because you've seen it for yourself and you know exactly what you got here. Everything around him changes a little bit, so maybe that changes him some, not for worse, but it changes how things work for him to a certain extent. But he is really good, and he was really good again today. I know he's only 6 of 18 from the floor. You might not know that, but I'm looking at the stats: 6 of 18 from the floor. But he's gonna be better than that. This is just basically basketball grab ass here. You're playing against your own teammates, and there's nothing really all that significant from this sort of stuff, which is why I'm spending 15 minutes on video talking about it. Fletcher Loyer, I think, looks like a guy who's really, really prepared to have to score a lot of different ways for Purdue. I think it's pretty evident that he's going to be a guy that people try to run off the three-point line. He's always had that runner to his game. He's always been able to get to the basket, and he's always had that kind of faux European thing going where he can score off the wrong foot. He can get to the basket, get angles, things like that. But I think what he did today off the dribble showed a bit more of a complete scoring instinct for him. Not that you've not seen it before, but I think you're going to see more of it this year. He almost looks like he's looking to drive now as opposed to looking to shoot, which probably isn't ideal. But when he does shoot, he made his threes too, as he's going to all season long. The freshmen are ready to help you, clearly. C.J. Cox is a shot maker. I mean, he was recruited as a point guard, combo guard. He is a shot maker. He is a scoring guard. You see how he can create shots, how he can make tough shots, tough jumpers, things like that. Big physical kid who's going to be hard to prevent from getting the space he needs to get his shot off. Also a defensive-minded guy who's going to be a good defensive player for Purdue. He's got to take better care of the basketball. He had 3 turnovers today. I know he had some in their scrimmage last week. But he had 15 points over the three sessions. Today, Jakari Harris is, we talked a lot about him from a defensive perspective. 3 steals today. Obviously, just watching it, he made things hard on the people who were bringing the ball up against him. He's going to be good. He's going to be really good. Raleigh Burgess, Purdue is going to have to make a really hard decision here on him because you don't know if the minutes are there to justify him playing this season, but he can play this season. I mean, I think that was pretty evident watching him today. I've heard a lot about him today, and I've seen a little bit, but his energy and his rebounding today were just jumped off the floor at you. And he made both of his threes, both from basically the same spot on each side of the floor. But his rebounding is a big deal, and his energy is a big deal. And those are important elements for Purdue where maybe you miss some of what Mason Gillis gave you. You missed a lot of Zach Ede's relentlessness, and having a spark guy like that. I've always thought Caleb Furst could kind of evolve into that sort of guy. Maybe he can. But Raleigh Burgess is already that guy, whether that means he's playing this year or they're making a business decision to kick that can down the road a little bit and preserve another year of eligibility. I don't know, but he's going to be a keeper. He is clearly a guy who's going to be a big part of Purdue's future. Daniel Jacobson, obviously going to play this year. His height and length are things that are unparalleled on this roster, unparalleled on virtually any roster. But when you don't really have a lot of rim protection on this team, you need to rebound. You need some size. He and Will Berg are going to be your guys who give you that size. Jacobson is probably your shot blocker. Excuse me, as I said, 3 hours of sleep last night. So this is what it looks like, people. Daniel Jacobson's going to play. He's going to give Purdue a little bit of maybe not a shot blocker as much as a shot deterrent. I guess those two things can be the same thing all at once. But I think there's definitely a role for him. He's not there physically yet, but he'll get there in time, and he'll get there through experience. I think Purdue, there's going to be part production, part development in mind for him this season. I think they're going to make him play in the post. They're going to make him have to rebound against big, strong people, and they're going to make him post up, get post touches, and they're going to make him develop on the job. It's kind of what they did with A.J. Hammonds years ago. Very different situation with him. But Daniel Jacobson is a guy they're going to encourage to take open threes. He didn't look great doing it today, but he's making them in practice. I've seen him do it. And Purdue views that as a good shot for Purdue. At this stage of his career already, so I think you're going to see him shoot and make some threes, but they need him to rebound. They need him to block shots. They need him to finish and pick and roll, stuff like that. Who's the other one? Jack Benner. I think Jack Benner is going to be a really good offensive basketball player at Purdue. Whether that's right now, I don't know. It's a bit of a redundancy with Fletcher Loyer on the team, Miles Colvin. You got a lot of wings here. So I think that Jack Benner, time is on his side. And, he can probably take this year to learn and develop and maybe help them, starting next year. Not to take away from the possibility that he just has opened so many eyes this preseason and this summer, shooting the hell out of the ball by every account, by every recorded metric, by every anecdotal bit of evidence, things like that. But his time might not be now. It could be if they threw him out there, but again, a business decision here in terms of taking the long view on some of these really promising players they have in the program right now. So that's kind of what I got from today's scrimmages. I know that when I don't talk about Camden Heide or Miles Colvin, guys like that, people are like, oh, they must, have turned into pumpkins or something like that. That's not really the case. I'm just talking about things that absolutely positively stood out during today's scrimmages. I will say that Camden Heide's energy to start this thing, I thought on the glass rebounding, stood out, and that's the key to his season. They need energy from him. They need rebounding from everyone. And if he's going to play up front, if he's going to play at the 4, if he's going to play at the 3, wherever he's going to play, having a big, strong, athletic kid, you need him to be energetic. You need him to rebound, stuff like that. The same goes for Miles Colvin. Miles Colvin is a guy who is going to have to, by every account, once again, I have probably set a video record for using the phrase today, by every account. But it has been, I'm not using it willy-nilly. I'm using it only when necessary. It just happens to be frequently necessary in this video. Myles Colvin is going to be that guy for which we hear Matt Painter say a lot. Don't play through your shooting, meaning if you're not making every shot you're taking, if you're not scoring the way you're accustomed to scoring or aspiring to score, don't let that affect your effort on defense. Don't let that affect your effort on the glass. Purdue needs him rebounding. Purdue needs him guarding, stuff like that. And Purdue needs him making shots. But he has to become as complete a player as possible to make himself really hard to take off the floor. Purdue is going to run 3-guard lineups a lot this season, I think. So there are minutes at the position Myles Colvin potentially could play for Jakari Harris or TJ Cox, and there's going to be a bit of a landscape shift there at times, much the same way as there's going to be with the front court, where Kaufman-Renn's going to play the 5 at times, he's going to play the 4 at times. Lots of moving pieces on this roster. For Colvin, it's about making himself as immovable a piece as possible, meaning keeping himself on the floor by doing substantive basketball, winning things, in addition to being the talented scorer that he's always been and the guy who can get a shot against anybody. There's a big role for him on this team as a scorer, but there's an enormous role for him on this team if he's a complete player in addition to being a scorer. So that's what I got. I have basically just told you the whole season right there. So no need to do any more of these videos this year, so you know everything you need to know. Next time I talk to you, I will be in Omaha, Nebraska, or Council Bluffs, Iowa, one or the other. They're very close, and sometimes I get confused as to where I actually am when I'm out there. But Purdue is playing an exhibition game, charity exhibition game, at Creighton, so I will be flying to Omaha, originating out of West Lafayette, the Purdue airport, which is going to be really cool. Save me that nice drive to Chicago. So I will have a wrap video after the Purdue Creighton charity exhibition, and we'll talk to you then. So thank you once again to the Purdue Club Hotel. I've been Googling your Omaha location all week, and I have not found one, and I need an explanation for this because I don't have a hotel yet, and I need one. Why there wouldn't be a Purdue Club Hotel in Omaha, Nebraska, or Council Bluffs, Iowa, especially Council Bluffs, Iowa, I have no idea. So thank you for watching, thank you for reading, thank you for listening, and thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And we'll talk to you guys again after the Creighton game. Thanks, everybody.